You describe it as a whole of society effort, which just sounds massive and unbelievable, frankly. And you're saying that a lot of people are beginning to understand what this is. They might know that, the Twitter files have exposed a lot of censorship. They might have themselves experienced something, but they don't see the whole picture, whole of society. What does that mean?
Right. So that's actually the terminology of basically every mainstream censorship industry professional.
Addressing disinformation requires a whole of society approach.
Disinformation is not going to be fixed by governments acting alone. I think we've seen that a whole of society effort is really key to the solution.
This is a whole of society challenge.
Whole of society approach.
This is a whole of society problem.
This is something that is now such a well-worn phrase within the censorship industry that they often apologize at conferences for using the term because it's so well-worn at this point. So what that means is 4 categories of institutions in society all working together towards the common goal of censorship. So you've got government, the private sector, civil society, and then news media and fact-checking. So just to break down those 4 elements, right? You've got DHS, FBI, DOD, State Department, the National Science Foundation, the CIA, and National Endowment for Democracy. On issue-specific issues like COVID censorship, you've got HHS, NIH, CDC, NIAID, all of those playing various roles at the government level. Then you've got the private sector. You've got the tech platforms where the censorship actually occurs. That is, where the button gets pressed, so to speak, or where the algorithms play out. But then you've also got private sector censorship technology development. That is, private companies whose job is to create machine learning, artificial intelligence, to incorporate the training data, to actually create the tools that are used for the act of censorship. And then you've got the corporate social responsibility, the CSR money that pours into it from the private sector. In fact, there's a whole new impact investing angle, VCs investing in censorship companies because there's such a gold rush into the field. And then on the civil society side, you've got universities, NGOs, activists, and nonprofits and foundations. And then finally, at the news media and fact-checking level, you've got political like-mindeds within the media who are propped up by the government, by the private sector, by the civil society, so that they can manage public narratives about various issues and can amplify pressure for censorship by creating negative press on the tech companies, for example. And then you've got the fact-checking conglomerates within that who flag the individual posts for the tech companies to manage. So all 4 of those in concert have all been fused into basically the nucleus of a single atom.
I mean, it's hard to conceive how this works, right?
When they have disinformation conferences, there will be representatives from all 4 institutions there. They will negotiate what their own preferences and needs are. They will talk with each other about doing favors for favors. They will work out common terminologies, common problems that they're having. They will have a revolving door at the professional level. That is, people who are in government roles, for example, in misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation at DHS, will get their next jobs at the German Marshall Fund or at the Atlantic Council's Digital Forensics Research Lab, the Alliance for Securing Democracy, Stanford University's a fellowship there. It is a career path. It is a path to power. We're now going on essentially year 5 or 6 of this industry being created, so it's reaching a stage of maturity as it would a technology space or an energy space. It's becoming much more seamless as these roles become more interchangeable.
But you say that the Twitter files are just kind of the tip of the iceberg, right?
A very tiny tip of it. The fact is my foundation, the Foundation for Freedom Online, had already covered a lot of the things that ended up coming out in the Twitter files. A lot of this was available, frankly, just by listening to the folks involved own public meetings. A lot of these things were done on YouTube or were added as Facebook videos or were on their own websites. What the Twitter files revealed was basically the presence of censorship operatives at virtually every national security related institution in the US government, as well as in the intelligence and in the public health spheres. So, there were Twitter files for the FBI, for the DHS, for the DOD, for the State Department. I saw that at the State Department myself, everything from funding censorship-themed video games to promoting censorship of populist groups around the world, often with a conscious view of it having a boomerang effect on limiting the popularity of populist groups in the US. What the Twitter files tended to focus on, even in their most explosive cases, were one-off requests for censorship takedowns. For example, the FBI would send a message to the Twitter trust and safety team to say, here's a batch of 6 or 7 tweets that we don't like and we want you to take. They violate your terms of service, so you may want to take them down, sort of thing. That only captures the tiniest fraction of censorship that was actually done in each of the major geopolitical events that we've experienced in the past few years. So take 6 or 7 takedowns in the context of, say, something like the Election Integrity Partnership, which had a formal partnership with the Department of Homeland Security to operate as their formally designated disinformation flagger. 22 million tweets were categorized as misinformation for purposes of takedowns or throttling through EIP. Compare that to 6 or 7 highlighted in a Twitter files dump. These are 6 or 7 orders of magnitude. It's not even the same ballpark. And this is because it wasn't just government individual takedown requests. It was government pressure and coordination with the changing of the policies in the private sector themselves to actually coerce the tech companies to create whole new categories of things to censor, and then arming them with the artificial intelligence to then automatically scan and ban the new thought violations that they themselves had helped install. So they did a 1-2 punch behind the scenes that the Twitter files still have not even come close to touching.